tap the power button.
Hi there, we're here today in the Fine Arts Studios of Arts University Bournemouth, AUB, and we've been meeting some of the fine arts students who are here. You can see some of their work around me, and basically we've been talking to them and finding out more about them and hoping that some of these students will get involved in a creative project we're doing next week in the drawing studio here at AUB, involving some of the dancers and fine artists taking part in a creative project to respond to music that will be playing through Function 1 speakers in a beautiful drawing studio, to see how different creatives respond and engage with different creative art forms, how the dancers will respond to the music we're playing through the speakers, how the artists will respond to the dancers, and basically look at the whole creative process as a live, innovative, exciting, experimental workshop. Do you want to hold it?
Oh, God.
Sorry, you can just hold it there. You can just hold it there.
Okay.
And you can just look at me. Ignore this man.
Okay. At least Katie's in the background, that's all right then.
Katie can do obscene hand gestures in the background. Whenever you're ready. All right. So Phoebe, just tell me, what's this piece you're working on at the moment?
It's experimenting with plaster and using spirals. And I obsess over things, so this time it's spirals, last time it was circles, and there's spirals behind it as well. So yeah, they're all mine as well. But they're kind of just, I think it shows how my brain's working a little bit. So if it's dark colours, there's probably something quite dark happening in my head, and this is quite bright, so it kind of reflects how I'm feeling, I think, a little bit, and what I'm listening to as well, especially like with the music and stuff you were saying about that earlier. I was like, yeah, it's very much like if I'm listening to a upbeat happy song, I get upbeat happy work. If I'm listening to like, I don't know, sad song, I get quite like, it gets quite dark, I think. But it's always abstract. And
so so it's interesting what you were saying, so does your medium change depending on your mood, or you're quite experimental in kind of your practice? Yeah,
I think I'm very experimental. I think I can't stick to one thing for ages. Like I get bored if I stick to it, and like even this is the longest I've spent on a piece in a long time, and I've only been working on it since yesterday. So I'm like, and like these ones I've spent a long time on, and I'm like, there's a point where I go, do I want to do it anymore? Or but like I want to see the end product. So yeah, I am enjoying what I do.
That's really interesting. You remind me a little bit of Kusama.
I love her. I absolutely love her.
I'm slightly obsessed with her. Yeah. I seem to be obsessed with like slightly unhinged female artists.
Yeah, me too.
So what for you, is it like a cathartic process of the creating it?
I think so. I think it's like releasing something out, because I think like if I don't create for a while, I get quite I don't know, ask my mum how I get, because she'll know. But yeah, I get a little bit twitchy and I need to do something. I think I release whatever I need to do on here, which I don't even know what that is. So.
And you mentioned kind of music as well, and how kind of different music can influence it. Do you feel like that's the same kind of with different art forms? Do you feel like there's other things that influence your art, whether it's music or fashion or other creative sort of output? Where do you get your inspiration?
Definitely fashion. Like I love clothes, and I love looking at stuff, and I've got like a Vogue collection which I look through all the time, and I see the colours and stuff, and I'm like, if anything doesn't have colours on it, it's a little bit boring. I don't want to say the word boring, but like it is a little bit boring if it doesn't have colours on. So yeah, I just like.
Do you feel there's quite a connection between art, music, and creative subjects?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I did loads of creative subjects, and they all link together in some way, shape or form. Like even if it's the tiniest link, there is still a link always. And yeah, I think if one thing wasn't there, the rest wouldn't really work very well. Like if painting wasn't a thing, then the pictures on tops wouldn't be a thing. It's it all links together in some way, shape or form, I think. So yeah.
Right, so tell me about this.
So my artwork is more figurative. I do a lot of graphic figurative, like artwork, normal oil paintings. It's, I don't know, it's very much like you wouldn't see it normally in an art gallery. And it's very like nude and stuff that could create quite controversial topics and discussions. So this is very different to what I usually do. I normally have some sort of fruit within because it kind of takes the focus away from how graphic and crazy my paintings are. But yeah, this is my artwork. I don't really know. My inspiration is a lot about lesbian intimacy and how it's perceived by people in society, and how the male gaze and all that can sexualise lesbian relationships and queer relationships in general. So I kind of wanted to add to that topic and make controversial artwork that will make people squeal or people love it and they're like, wow, this is really a topic of discussion and stuff like that. And I just love it. I love when people look at my paintings and are like, don't like that, or like, that's a bit much. I love it, and I love watching people view my artwork and have such a different... I used to work with film and media like Will did, and I was in a bit of an art block and I didn't know where to go from first year to second year. And then third year I kind of had this massive outbreak of what to do and where my art takes me in a way. And I am a lesbian myself, so going through the actual real life experiences that you gain and how you are sexualised as women and lesbians, and I was just like, I really want to get that really important topic and expand on it. So yeah, I used to do like ballet stuff, very figurative still, and a lot of portraiture, and I loved portraiture, and I never used to do fruits or anything like that. I didn't really like doing them, and then all of a sudden I just came out of this massive shell and I was like, wow, I actually really enjoy the stuff that I do now. I was a dancer from the age of 2 till 18, 19, I think, and that, I think, seeing the way the body moves and the things you can do with your body is really amazing, and it's quite inspiring and did inspire my artwork. Music is a big thing, I think, for everyone. It just helps your soul, and painting with music playing in your ears is really gets your brain going. And I think I've got ADHD, so I am very much in my head constantly, and when I do art, when I paint, my brain goes silent for about, I don't even know how long, but I come out of it and I'm like, wow, that was a great like feeling of just nothing, and your body just takes over and your brain's just away in some other world for like a minute, and it's really nice. It's a lovely feeling.
That was amazing. Perfect. You have to come and take part in this project. Your background, you're such a beautiful speaker.
Thank you.
Your work is so interesting. She has to...
Should I start now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, my work is kind of all over the place at the moment. I typically paint figures. I used to normally paint myself, like in the past projects. But as of now, I started painting more in a macro level. So I'm looking at more political issues in terms of like fascism and looking back in time. Being an Argentine immigrant, I kind of look a lot at my kind of culture and kind of the history there. So I've kind of started pulling things off like the military aspects that happened in the 80s and 70s in Argentina and putting it in these paintings. I typically look at stories. I love storytelling narratives. So right now I'm looking at the little prints as a foundation block for my pieces, but kind of a bit more abstracting the meanings and yeah, kind of forming the little prints in something more contemporary as I'm doing here. So typically my practice consists of using or looking at different artists and looking kind of elements that I like from them and putting them in my pieces. Something that I'm kind of taking a risk here is not really using myself as a reference point, which I typically do. So I'm kind of challenging myself to kind of scavenge different references, as you can see here, just different paintings, different moments of time, to kind of compose these pieces together. I don't know, I've always been a painter at heart. I started more digital and drawing based when I was younger, like around 14 years old. But after or during like my GCSEs, I started kind of leaning towards painting, more acrylic. And it wasn't until late A-level, so year 13, until the beginning of uni, that I started doing more oil-based paintings. Is there something about the flow of the paint, there's something about the thickness of it and the fact that you can have such control over it, but also there's a lack of control in that too. It's kind of power play with the paint and yourself, that there are aspects that you can't control, but there are moments in time that you can almost control so much that it gives you the picture that you think of, but not in the outcome that you expect. And I think that's something so kind of majestic and kind of interesting about painting. Most of it is planned. The foundation of it, the reference, the pose, the idea is planned. The paint itself, that's when it gets a bit more complicated, because that's when it's like you want to give your hand to the paint, but at the same time you also want to take the reins. It's like controlling a horse. There are times that you can train the horse to do things, but the horse has its own mind, and that's kind of how I see paint. It's an unwildly kind of beast that you try to tame, but you also try to befriend. It's not all about power and dominance, it's befriending your craft, and I think that's something that I've started to deeply learn in this university. Because I started more with a more traditional thinking, like I want to be like the academic masters and paint so realistically, but over time you start realizing that their mastery wasn't exactly on the perfection of the paint, but their relationship with the paint and their craft, and that's something that I've started to learn, trying to hold the reins on with my own.
In that process.
Yeah, from moments where I am thinking of the music whilst I'm painting. There are paintings that are inspired by music, especially with the rhythms of it or the meanings. Like, I think one of my latest pieces was inspired by Bad Bunny's recent album and his kind of joy and passion for Latin America, which is something I deeply felt as well, and that's part of like what inspired this thing too. But in terms of the rhythm of it, I think in some cases if music is a bit more loud, a bit more rough, there is a tendency to apply the paint more thickly. It's also just a balance of emotional states. If I'm more emotional, I would tend to kind of do that. Yeah. But sometimes I just blank out and I just don't really listen to the music at all. And it's just like, I think that's when my headspace gets very focused and I just focus on the details of it. So I guess music influences the emotion of the painting, whilst the more detailed parts are when I'm not really listening and I'm more focused in.
Currently I'm working on a painting, which is unusual for me because I'm usually more of a like film-making student. So I'm kind of just bouncing back and forth between my two favourite mediums. Video, because I like to be quite expressive and use myself as a body of work, and then painting, which is much more tactile and I can get my hands dirty and kind of much more imaginative stuff. Kind of like to work in the fantasy more than actual reality, but it kind of reflects real events and things that influence me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say your creative identity is? Would you say it's a filmmaker, a painter, a bit of both?
I would definitely say a bit of both. It's not really one-dimensional. It kind of bounces between. I like them both for very different reasons. I feel like when I do video work, there is a lot more of my personality that shows through, both in the editing and the acting. It's not very good acting, but it's acting nonetheless. Whereas this, it's much more just my mind, but not so much how I present myself. You know, I can be a bit more expressive, but not myself, if that makes sense.
It sounds like you know, being a filmmaker and a painter can see those kind of connections between different art forms.
Definitely.
How do you see kind of music and sound working with kind of creativity?
Music and sound, I find it takes me to a place. Like I can feel like I am somewhere else depending on the music. If it's more like heavy metal, I feel like I'm on the front lines of the Mad Max movies. Whereas if it's more like fantasy, fairy, peaceful banjos, I feel like I'm in a castle, in a ruins, in a fairy forest. Wherever really. Being quite into, I guess for something that influences me is like tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons massively influences, and the music that comes along with those sessions really just puts me somewhere else. Brilliant. Hopefully that wasn't too nervous, rambly.
No, it's perfect. It was about your work and kind of your influences and your artistic kind of vision. No, it's perfect, and I love that it's filmed